The record will stand corrected. Melissa Lee.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, it's a great pleasure to rise in support of the second reading of the Social Security Fraud Measures and Debt Recovery Amendment Bill, sir. The National Government promised to clamp down on benefit fraud, and we are delivering on the promise with this Social Security Fraud Measures Debt Recovery Amendment Bill. Welfare fraud is a crime committed by people often for their own benefit at the taxpayer's expense, and there can be no excuse for it. And before I go on, I'd like to address some of the rhetoric from the member who spoke just before me, as in Jacinda Ardern from the opposite side, who tried to paint us on the government ventures as the nasty people who want to believe all beneficiaries were committing benefit fraud. That's far from the truth. And she knows it because it has always been clearly stated that vast majority of beneficiaries are honest people who do the right thing. That often people end up in difficult situations where they have to rely on the state for the support. And we on the side of the House are completely, we accept that and support that. We are not ogres who oppose welfare. What we are opposed to is the activity of people who purposely and knowingly commit a crime, in this case, welfare fraud. Relationship fraud in 2013 cost this government more than $26 million, sir. Taxpayers, $26 million. Relationship fraud cases made up 1/3 of all welfare fraud prosecutions. In most of these cases, one partner, usually the woman, is left carrying the debt. It actually took two people to create, and we are fixing this so that it is not just the woman who carries the burden of the debt. And I would have thought all members in this House will agree that that was actually a fair way to deal with it. Ms. Ardern also commented about how this government was treating welfare fraudsters in a way which is more punitive than the tax fraudsters when there are more tax frauds being committed. I'd like to respond by saying that no one in this House, no one disputes that tax fraud is a bigger issue than welfare fraud. The government's priority reflects this. Over the last 4 budgets, this government has invested more than $200 million on new funding into tackling tax fraud, but no new money has gone into fighting welfare fraud. IRD has an enforcement budget of $142 million, while MSD only has $30 million. This government has a duty to ensure taxpayer money isn't being taken illegitimately, and to suggest we turn a blind eye to tax fraud or any other criminal activity is very irresponsible on that side of the House to suggest so. This bill makes spouses and partners jointly liable for debt where they knowingly benefit or should have known they were benefiting from a welfare fraud. If a person is in receipt of a single living alone benefit like the sole parent support benefit, but living in a marriage-like arrangement with a partner or spouse, it is common sense, it is clear to everyone, even in this House, that they were clearly committing a crime, that it is in fact a fraud. Now, they can be fined up to $5,000 or given a jail term up to a year. Prosecuting partners who benefit from welfare fraud will ensure that both parties who profit from the crime are punished, and will help taxpayers recover the lost money faster. During the Select Committee stage, there were some concerns raised regarding women in violent relationships who may be inadvertently affected by this amendment bill. The law is very, very clear that for welfare purposes, a violent relationship is not treated as a relationship when assessing their entitlement for benefits. This is very important to all of us in this House, as we do not want to remove financial support to women in domestic violence situations, which might actually help them get out of the abusive relationship. MSD fraud investigators are extensively trained to spot signs of a violent relationship and will respond appropriately. It is important that the public has the confidence in the welfare system, and these measures, along with the range of smaller initiatives included in the package, will give MSD the tools it needs to achieve this outcome. We have formalised information sharing, like links between ACC, IRD, Housing New Zealand Police, and MSD. Information sharing between IRD and MSD so far identified and stopped more than 5,300 illegitimate benefit payments. This bill brings in new tools to prevent, detect welfare fraud and brings the welfare system into the 21st century. So I commend this bill.
Dr. Rajan Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak on this bill. And